The skies above New Belgrade were empty and unremarkable. Ink-black canvas studded only by the familiar glint of distant stars and the routine contrails of high-altitude jets. It was to 17 East on July 24, 2025, and the city slept beneath a suffocating midsummer heat that made even the night air oppressive. In the heart of the International Space Observatory, however, sleep was a luxury doctor Aisha Morozova could ill afford. She sat alone before the bank of monitors, their soft glow illuminating the fine lines around her eyes. For more than a decade she'd calibrated spectrometers and tuned radio rays, hunting for whispers in the cosmic noise. Tonight, her fingers hovered above the keyboard, heart hammering against her ribs as a cascade of data scrolled across the main display. The increments were small fractions of a fraction but unmistakable. They formed a deliberate, rhythmic pattern: 3 short pulses, a long pause, followed by 5 shorter pulses. At first she thought it was a glitch. She checked the internal diagnostics, all systems nominal. She ran the feed from raw satellite telemetry. The pattern persisted. Her breath caught. This wasn't natural background radiation. This was engineered. Across the Atlantic, in Houston's Johnson Space Center, Dr. Raphael Inouye leaned over a console at Mission Control. He'd just finished a routine systems check on the James Webb Telescope when his own alarms chimed. Within seconds he was comparing notes with colleagues in Cape Town via secure video link. In Johannesburg, they too were seeing the same anomaly, and terrifyingly it seemed to be growing in intensity. Back in New Belgrade, Aisha keyed her headset. "This is Morozova to UNSO Command. We've got a confirmed artificial signature in the Kuiper Belt. Request immediate CROSS confirmation." Static crackled, then the clipped response: "Acknowledged. Dispatching to our partners. Stand by for status." Minutes passed like hours. Outside, a solitary night watchman paced the grounds, pausing now and then to glance back at the observatory's domed silhouette. Inside, Aisha's monitors flickered as to bright points materialized on the radar feed, objects far beyond Pluto, moving in perfect tandem. She zoomed in on the trajectory plot. They were converging toward the inner solar system at a stealthy fraction of light speed. Her pulse accelerated. Humanity had long speculated about visitors from the stars, but science demanded proof. Proof was here. At 3:02 East, the first world news tickers began to flash. Unidentified deep space signal detected. Social media exploded with excitement and fear. Conspiracy theorists rejoiced, skeptics scoffed, and governments huddled in clandestine war rooms. Aisha watched in disbelief as heads of state convened an emergency video conference at the United Nations in the cavernous Security Council chamber. Ambassador Rowan Hayes addressed the world. "We ask all nations to remain calm. We will gather further data from our joint observatories and keep you informed. There is no immediate threat." Behind her, the screens displayed Aisha's spike graph, treacherous and beautiful in its precision. Human voices echoed in the chamber, some trembling, many skeptical, but none could deny what the data showed. Aisha sank into her chair, desperate for more answers. Had the signal always been there, hidden in cosmic static, or had it just awakened? If these crafts were piloted or even conscious, what did they intend? Were they explorers, traders, colonizers, or conquerors? At 4:03 East, those questions were answered in the most spectacular way imaginable. Civilian radar stations over the mid-Atlantic picked up a fast-moving object, reaching atmospheric entry parameters. At first it appeared as a bright meteor, streaking earthward in a trail of incandescent plasma. But as the object decelerated, something impossible happened. Its trajectory leveled, and it hovered, motionless, 10 kilometers above the waves. Air traffic controllers aboard the MV Sentinel, a commercial satellite tracking ship, watched the live feed with open mouths. Captain Luis Montero barked orders into his mic. "Bring us lateral. Let's get the optics on that thing." Binocular crews on deck swept the sky. Seasoned observers whispered, "It's a ship." From his cabin, Montero transmitted grainy footage to European Space Agency HQ. The superstructure of the craft shimmered in the dawn light, an elongated oval, metallic and flawless, reflecting the horizon like liquid mercury. There were no wings, no seams, no visible propulsion. And then, within seconds, it vanished in a pulse of electromagnetic energy that blacked out the Sentinel's instruments. For a full 20 seconds, nobody knows exactly what the fishermen off the coast of the Azores thought they'd seen. Some swore it was an omen of doom, others called it a miracle. All agreed on one thing: it changed their lives forever. They spoke of a humming resonance that vibrated through their bones, a sensation of being gently scanned, assessed. Then, as quietly as it had arrived, the ship retreated, its course plotted directly toward the vastness beyond Earth's gravity well. In the control room at Cape Town's Deep Space Array, Dr. Kagomotso Ndlovu stared at the readouts in stunned silence. The signal that once pulsed steadily was now a cascade of overlapping harmonics. She ran a Fourier transform, heart-pounding. The result, a mathematically precise message encoded within the energy spike's prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, fundamental constants. A greeting dot at last, at 5:26 East. A global broadcast glitch cut through every channel and live stream. To the sentient beings of Earth, we see you. We come in peace. The words repeated in dozens of languages: English, Mandarin, Arabic, Hindi, Russian, each synthesized with perfect clarity. Then they faded, leaving a world suspended between awe and terror. Aisha sank forward, her forehead pressed against cold glass. The lonely nights of data analysis, the endless arguments over funding, the frustration of skeptics, all had led to this. Humanity's greatest dream and its deepest nightmare had just begun. Outside, the first birds of dawn began to stir. In that quiet twilight before sunrise, the skies remained silent once more, as though holding their breath. And somewhere, far beyond Pluto's wandering icebergs, a fleet stirred at last, ready to bridge the void that had separated myth from reality. Dawn broke in a riot of orange and violet across every time zone. But in New Belgrade it arrived like a challenge. Citizens stirred from their beds, bleary-eyed, to witness a sky unlike any they had ever known. Dozens of slender, mirror-smooth vessels hung motionless above the darkened Spree, the Danube, and the Adriatic, each one a flawless silhouette against the burgeoning light. Military radars lit up with hundreds of contacts. Air traffic controllers watched in stunned silence as the unknown armada eclipsed every known aircraft formation. Unparalleled geometry, the first pilots scrambled at 5:12 East. Sleek Eurofighter Typhoons lifted off from the Newburgh Air Base, their afterburners roaring like thunder in the quiet air. Flight leader Captain Anja Vogel guided her wingman toward the nearest ship, a vessel 70 meters long, its curvature seamless, with no cockpit or visible access. As they closed to 3 kilometers, the jet's radar returns vanished. On electro-optical sensors, the alien hull shimmered, breathing light in patterns that defied human optics. When Vogel triggered her missile lock, the weapons system lost the target. Every tracking ray, every heat sensor, simply dissipated against the hull's surface, as though hitting a perfect black hole. On the carrier USS Enterprise to the North Atlantic, Admiral James Whittaker issued orders to ready the Tomahawks. Yet every launch code returned an error: warheads unreachable. The Aegis system reported zero resistance. It was as if the vessels existed partially out of phase with normal space. In Melbourne's Naval Command, the same baffling readings prompted expletives and frantic cables to Washington, D.C. Across the globe, the message was unanimous: no known weapon could touch them. A global state of siege by 6:30 local time. Governments had declared martial law in major cities. Sirens wailed in Rome, Tokyo, and Johannesburg. Metro systems ground to a halt in Paris and Beijing as commuters poured into the streets. Eyes skyward, mouths agape. News anchors struggled to keep calm faces. Talk show hosts traded breathless commentary for scenes of parent-child duos pointing at the sky. Marketplaces froze. Stock exchanges halted trading, leaving indices suspended in mid-plummet. Behind closed doors, heads of state convened in bunkers and secure rooms. Russia's president and China's premier spoke in encrypted video link. And ATO's supreme commander called emergency war councils. ASEAN ministers conferred with their naval chiefs. All shared the same sobering conclusion: this was no routine incursion. This was first contact on a scale hitherto imagined only in science fiction, the gentle pulse rather than aggression. The Armada offered transformation. At precisely 7:01 East, all ships emitted a soft lilac glow that bathed the world in ethereal light. The wave rolled across continents and oceans, carried by an undulating field of low-frequency radiation. People reported a soothing sensation in their minds as though headphones played a calming hum. Just beyond perception, devices flickered, then rebooted with new systems messages in an alien script. At power stations, turbines adjusted output automatically. Satellites reoriented to face the fleet. Dr. Aisha Morozova, watching this from her observatory, recognized the signature frequencies. They matched the prime-numbered pulses from her earlier detection, now amplified into a global broadcast. Her hands shook as she decoded the modulation. It was diagnostic. The Alluri were scanning the planet's electromagnetic spectrum, mapping everything from tectonic stress lines to neurotransmitter activity in human brains. In Sao Paulo, neuroscientists connected via telepresence noted that the field briefly stimulated the human amygdala, reducing fear responses. In Nairobi, agricultural drones repurposed their sensors to measure soil quality at unprecedented resolution. Thanks to the ambient scanning protocols, every living system was momentarily read with a precision unimaginable to modern science. And at 7:03 East, the lights faded as smoothly as they had arrived, leaving the sky once again dominated by silent, hovering behemoths. Captain Santos's close encounter aboard the Odyssey, the International Alliance's research station in low Earth orbit. Commander Miguel Santos tracked the unfolding events through telescopes and wide-angle cameras. The station's commander had authorized a small EVA team to deploy unarmed probes and manned drones, intended merely to take high-resolution images. As the drones drifted toward the fleet, Santos held his breath. The first probe approached the nearest ship, coming within 100 meters of hull. Its instruments recorded a gravity gradient that fluctuated by a factor of 10 across its length. Structural echoes vibrations stimulated by the probe's brief sonic pulses revealed a latticework of energy conduits rather than metallic beams. The material itself seemed alive, an intricate mesh of crystalline filaments transmitting data across the entire vessel. And then, without warning, the probe's feed wavered. The ship emitted a single, resonant chord of pure tone at 430 Hz, familiar to human ears as a concert pitch. Yet when Santos listened, he felt the entire station tremble. Instruments briefly displayed an encrypted digital logo, a segmented circle encompassing 7 smaller nodes, a message scrolled in alien glyphs, then translated into every major Earth language. Respect the sanctity of life. We observe all species, we harm none. Even from space, the words carried weight. Santos exhaled and whispered into his mic. They know we're here, and they choose not to destroy us. The world holds its breath as the probe's feed went dark. The fleet remained in tableau still, majestic and inscrutable. Across Earth, millions held their breath. In underground bunkers, political leaders contemplated retaliation. But scientists, peer-reviewed and cautious, urged patience. The Alluri had shown restraint and generosity. To strike first might doom humanity's greatest opportunity. At 8:47 East, United Nations Secretary-General Amina al-Hassan addressed the world in a globally synchronized broadcast. Today, we face a pivotal moment in human history. We stand before a civilization that could wipe us out in an instant or lift us to new heights. Let us choose unity over division. Let us greet our guests with curiosity, not hostility. Her words set the tone for the fragile truce. Embassies around the globe prepared for eventual dialogue. Linguists reopened ancient scripts and constructed new translation algorithms. Tech consortia poured resources into creating neutral interfaces. The planet mobilized not for war, but for understanding. In New Belgrade, Dr. Morozova and her team prepared for their own encounter. They arranged to transmit a simple greeting, sequence binary visuals of human DNA, images of Earth's biodiversity, a musical recording of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. If the Alluri wished to communicate through art and science, humanity would answer in kind. Above them, the fleet hovered like cosmic sentinels, its motives still shrouded in myth. Yet for the first time in recorded history, hope glimmered brighter than fear. As the sun rose higher, bathing the alien vessels in celestial fire, the world watched and wondered, what would come next? The world held its breath beneath the silent armada. After the gentle lilac scan and the unmanned probe's soft hymn, there remained only the hovering silhouettes against the bleached sky. It was on the third day, July 27, 2025, that the Alluri chose to speak again. Their envoy would step forward at Geneva's subterranean complex, and in that moment, the course of human history would pivot on a single greeting. Descent into the council chamber on 9:15 CET, a reinforced shuttle bearing hardened diplomats and top scientists pierced the electromagnetic veil above Geneva, the UN's emergency response hub. Buried 40 meters beneath the Palais des Nations was a fortress of concrete and steel, its walls lined with holographic translators and encrypted communication arrays. Ambassador Rowan Hayes stood at the head of an obsidian table, flanked by General Marcus Lee of the People's Liberation Army and Dr. Aisha Morozova, her eyes still wide with awe. From that first orbital message, a low hum rippled through the chamber as the overhead hatch sealed and a magnetic airlock cycled open. The silence was profound, broken only by the faint hiss of the station's life support system. And then, before anyone could speak, a single beam of pearlescent light descended from above, centering at the far end of the room. From that column emerged the figure the world would later call the Orator, taller than any human, by nearly half a meter, its 6 limbs folded gracefully at its sides. Its translucent skin refracted the light into iridescent patterns that danced across the polished floor, where a human's chest would rise and fall with breath. The Alluri's torso remained perfectly still, its respiration a subtle flux of bioenergetic pulses. Beneath the surface, Rowan raised her hand in the universal gesture of peace. The Orator inclined its triangular head in return, and then in a voice felt more than heard it spoke. "We see you." The words resonated in every mind, translated instantaneously by the network of UN linguists and AI rays. Yet, more than meaning, it was the emotion behind them that stunned the assembly. "People of Earth." The Orator intoned, "We see you." Silence followed. The weight of those 3 words pressed upon every soul in the chamber. To be seen truly, seen by an intelligence born in the cosmic expanse, was an honor and a vulnerability. They saw every triumph and every tragedy, every longing and every fear. Dr. Morozova felt tears sting her eyes. She dared to ask, voice trembling, "Why now? Why reveal yourselves after millennia of watching?" The Orator paused. In that fraction of a heartbeat, every eye in the room flickered with projection. Holographic displays lit into being around them, showing swirling nebulae, blossoming worlds, and carters of crystalline archives. "Because your moment has come," the voice continued. "We awaited the harmonization point, when your species could both devastate and uplift. The constellation Accord demands that all intelligent life who reach this threshold must join, or forge their own path. You have breached the singularity of shared consciousness." The Nexus Archive revealed it at a gesture from the Orator. A circular panel at the chamber's far end split open, revealing a shimmering sphere half a meter in diameter. It hovered, rotating gently, its surface alive with fractal light. "This is the Nexus Archive," the Orator explained. "It contains the collective knowledge of 12,000 civilizations across the galaxy. All that we have learned and all that we have lost preserved here." With another motion, data streamed from the sphere to each delegate's forearm communicator. Blueprints for anti-gravity transport, self-replicating nanofactories, protocols to heal damaged ecosystems, and languages encoded in song and poetry flooded their devices. The information was staggering, yet harmonized, curated for human comprehension. General Lee frowned. "Is there a cost? A binding condition? We cannot accept aid that enslaves us." The Orator's bioluminant implants pulsed rhythmically. "No chains are offered, only guidance. The choice to integrate is yours alone. Yet beware, knowledge untamed can burn as easily as it creates. You must learn, not merely copy." Seeds of discord and wonder outside the subterranean sanctum. News of the Nexus archive tore through the world like lightning. In Paris, crowds surged toward the Louvre. In Mumbai, street preachers spoke of apocalyptic prophecies. In Tokyo, tech entrepreneurs wept with joy. Some nations formed Alluri integration councils, while others like the coalition of sovereign states refused to participate, accusing the aliens of psychological manipulation. Back in Geneva, Ambassador Hayes and her team debated whether to broadcast the entire archive immediately or to release it in phases. Dr. Morozova argued for caution. We need time to understand, to contextualize. If we dump Starship schematics on every weapons manufacturer, we'll see more devastation than cures. A tense standoff unfolded, but even as political fault lines deepened, the Alluri remained patient. The orator offered one final gift before retreating. To aid your deliberations, we will establish the liaison beacon and interface in Lagrange Point 2. There, your finest minds may convene without interference. Join us, or chart your own course. We await your answer. With that, the beam of light retracted, and the orator lifted back into the hatch. The airlock hissed closed, and the chamber returned to artificial normality. Its attendees left with the heaviest question in human memory. What will we become? A world poised on a knife's edge. In the days that followed, Geneva's cavernous halls became hives of activity. Teams of philosophers, engineers, artists, and ethicists pored over the archive's contents. Virtual reality simulations tested nanotech healing spheres on digital replicas of war-torn regions. Deep in Siberia, a clandestine lab attempted unsuccessfully to weaponize the Alluri's gravity field generators. At the same time, grassroots movements formed across continents. Children of Alluria held vigils under the hovering fleet, singing Earth's languages in harmonic sequences taught by the archive. Keepers of the flame insisted on preserving human culture, free from alien influence. Dr. Morozova, exhausted, yet exhilarated, prepared for her own voyage to the liaison beacon. As she gazed at the grainy live feed of the crystalline station forming in deep space, she whispered into her recorder, "We stand at the threshold of cosmic fraternity or cosmic ruin. The Alluri have extended their hand. Will we grasp it or let it slip through our fingers?" Somewhere beyond Mars and Jupiter, the fleet watched and waited. Their silent sentinels shimmered against the void, poised to guide or to withdraw. And on Earth, every heartbeat echoed with a single, resonant question: was humanity ready to join the constellation accord, to become more than myth? The dawn of Reconstruction's morning after the liaison beacon's activation, Earth awoke to a new reality. Across continents, crystalline towers gifted by the Alluri sprouted in city plazas, atop high-altitude plateaus, and along the banks of every great river. Each tower pulsed with soft, blue-white light, its hexagonal facets shifting like living data streams. Embedded within them were interfaces that hummed with possibility, cures for diseases, clean energy reactors drawing from quantum vacuums, and terraforming protocols to heal scarred landscapes. In the ruins of Aleppo, where once stood collapsed minarets and bomb-cratered streets, nano-restoration swarms now sculpted walls back to life. Children played among blossoms of newly sprouted olive trees, their laughter mingling with the resonant hum of Alluri drones weaving biosynthetic vines. Through shattered masonry, in the rain-soaked marshes of the Niger Delta, floating platforms, enriched with phytoremediation arrays, filtered heavy metals from poisoned waters, restoring fish stocks and livelihoods overnight. But transformation did not come without tension. In Brasilia, the newly formed Council for Human Sovereignty protested what they dubbed technological colonization. They argued that unlimited access to star-forged solutions would atrophy human ingenuity and independence. In Moscow, hardliners warned of unseen strings. Every gift has a price, intoned General Vostrikov in a televised address. We must guard against the slow unraveling of our free will. Yet, in Tokyo's neon-lit research zones and Silicon Valley's revamped sprawl, innovators teamed with Alluri engineers to push boundaries. They devised aerial farms that hovered kilometers above ground, harvesting solar winds. They grew coral forest biodomes off the coast of Australia. They piloted the first anti-gravity shuttles that soared silently between lunar bases. The cultural renaissance as technologies unfurled. So did it a renaissance of art and philosophy, virtual. Galleries streamed across neural link networks, displaying human masterpieces alongside holographic epics from distant star systems. Musicians collaborated with Allori sound weavers, blending Earth's classical symphonies with alien overtone harmonics into compositions that resonated in both mind and matter. In Mumbai, poets held midnight salons beneath the floating spires, reciting verses that grappled with humanity's newfound role in the cosmos. "We were clay," wrote Lena Iyer, "and now we hold the stars in our hands." In Johannesburg, dancers performed gravity-defying choreographies within zero-G chambers, their movements echoing the swirling gala of distant quasars. Philosophers debated the ethics of post-human evolution. Should humans integrate Allori bio-implants to access the archive directly? Would such melding erode the essence of human experience? The University of Oxford convened a grand colloquium, "Streaming Live to Billions," where ethicists and neurobiologists argued across time zones. At stake was the very definition of self. Shadows of resistance, and not all were swept up in wonder. In the Republic of Cassandra, breakaway coalition in the Andes rebels detonated an Allori tower, erupting its crystalline core in shards of sapphire light. They broadcasted a manifesto: "We choose our destiny, unshackled by alien benevolence." Security drones subdued the uprising, but the incident ignited global debates about freedom, consent, and the right to refuse salvation. Meanwhile, secret labs funded by the coalition of sovereign states raced to reverse engineer Allori tech. In a hidden bunker beneath Novosibirsk, physicists tampered with gravity modulation devices, seeking weapons-grade outputs. A mishap triggered a miniature singularity that swallowed a launch complex, leaving a crater half a kilometer wide. The Allori fleet responded by dispatching fractal drones that stabilized the rift, mending space-time tears before human scientists fully comprehended the catastrophe. Emboldened by this intervention, the Allori envoy broadcast across every channel: "Your zeal tempts peril. Knowledge without wisdom spirals into oblivion. Heed restraint, or we will enforce balance." The message, warm yet firm, reminded humanity that benevolence was a covenant, not a guarantee. The first step beyond. On October 13, 2025, just months after contact, the first joint Earth-Allori expedition launched from Lagrange Point 2. A sleek vessel, christened the Constellation's Hope, carried an international crew: scientists, engineers, artists, and diplomats chosen by lottery and merit. Their mission: to chart the nearest habitable exoplanet, Kepler-4b, whose data had flowed through the Nexus archive. As the Hope slipped the bonds of Earth's gravity, billions watched via neural link simulcasts. Dr. Aisha Morozova, now liaison scientist, stood on the observation deck, tears glistening in her eyes as the blue marble receded. Beside her, the orator invited, as cultural ambassador, placed a slender, crystalline hand upon her shoulder. "You carry our trust and your own hopes." It whispered within her mind, "Remember who you are." With engines humming in concert, with the gentle pulse of Allori graviton coils, the Hope accelerated into the void. Behind it, Earth's towers glowed like constellations, each a beacon of collective aspiration. A new beginning back on Earth, life bristled with purpose. Harvest yields climbed, disease rates plummeted, and poverty dwindled to its lowest recorded levels. Yet, for every triumph there was introspection. Activists marched under banners reading "Conscious Evolution" and "Guardians of the Human Spark." Universities reintroduced philosophy as core curriculum, teaching wisdom of restraint alongside mechanics of the atom. In New Belgrade, the International Space Observatory, now co-managed by human and Allori researchers, opened its upgraded main dome. Beneath its mirrored expanse, Dr. Morozova reflected on humanity's journey, from isolated tribes beneath the silent skies to participants in a galactic chorus. She spoke into her recorder one final time. "We were frightened, children, gazing upward at myths of gods and monsters. Today, our myth became reality, and in that light we found ourselves. The road ahead is uncharted, but we walk it together, humanity reborn, reaching for the stars." As night fell and the Allori fleet realigned overhead in a silent salute, Earth exhaled, The myth had come true. The journey was only beginning.